Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood, and this video is going to be showing how I designed a multi-layered camping sign, and you can use these techniques to create whatever kind of sign you're looking to make. But this sign specifically is I'd rather be camping, and I'm going to show you how I created this from beginning to end, step by step, including the technique I used to get those really neat textured engravings on the mountains and drawing clip art or drawing up the campers. There's going to be a lot of information in this video. Whether you like this sign or not, learning the techniques that are used in this video are going to save you a lot of time when you're creating your own work. So hang around. So this will be a lengthy video, as most of mine are, but it's going to be filled with a lot of technique and a lot of information if you want to learn how to design in LightBurn, how to use the tools that are at your disposal, creating your own original artwork instead of copying everything from the internet. And that's what we're going to do in this one. And let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight in here to LightBurn. So this is my finished file. It is a large backboard that this glues up to, allowing the back layer to see through the tops of the mountains. And then these small pieces of clip art, or not clip art, but artwork that I've drawn that I cut out and then glue on top of this one to create that third dimension. And the third layer, and actually I've got these little two pieces up here that are optional that this glues over that one, and that one glues over the last one. So it's actually 5 layers if you wanted to use those last 2 pieces. Those are totally optional, and I used them in the piece I showed you in the opening, but if you were to design this, this is not something that you would absolutely need to do because it looks fine without it. But how did I create this piece? Well, we're going to create this in LightBurn using nothing but the tools at our disposal. So what do we want to tackle first? Well, let's tackle the little things first. Let's create a campfire. And I'm going to bring this, in fact I'll just copy it, Control D, duplicate that, and send it to the middle of the bed, and then jump to the middle of the bed. Now, I want to recreate this using just the tools in LightBurn. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to draw a rectangle. And let's put it in line mode, or there we go. And let's make it a little bit wider or a little taller. Okay, there's my first log. So that don't look like a log? Well, let's make it look like a log. I'm going to use my shear, which is this little bitty square right here. Of course, you know the corners and the side, but this little bitty one right here, I'm going to take that and shear it up about there, whatever I think looks good. Okay, I like that. Now I'm going to say Control D, duplicate it, and I'm going to bring it down about here, and I'm going to make it just a little bit narrower, and that caused me to need to rotate it a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to duplicate this one again, Control D, duplicate, and now I'm going to just mirror it. There we go. And then we'll move it up. I want to put it right about where that corner is, right about there. All right, so there's my logs. Still don't think it looks like logs? All right, well, let's do a little more to it then. Let's select all of it, right click, convert to path, show all my nodes, and now let's start working on eliminating some lines to create the illusion of the overlapping. And there's so many ways you can do this that it's not even funny. In fact, I don't even know which way I want to show you. I'm just going to do this is going to be using the node editing tools instead of just moving nodes around. I'm going to remove sections and trim sections, and then reconnect the pieces as needed. So I want this log to be on the very top like that. So none of that's going to get eliminated. But this bottom log down here, which is this one, most of it needs to go away. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hover over this line right here, and I'm going to hit the letter. Let's try the letter D. There we go. Because all that needs to go away. Now I'll come over here and I'm going to hit the letter T for trim. And I'll just take it down to there. And here, this one can go away. So D for delete. And here, I'm going to do T for trim. And then come here and do T for trim. And I'm going to get rid of that little hanger on right there by hitting the letter D for delete. So now that gives me that. All right, now this one needs to go underneath that. So just come over here and hit the letter T for trim and the letter T for trim. And now I've got the layers correct, but now I've got several open shapes. So now I'm going to put all of this on my O1 layer because I know it's on a fill mode, so I can see that that is already filled. So what I'm going to do now is select this one, and I'm going to put it back on a cut path. But these two are open shapes, so I need to close those by connecting the ends, and actually all of these are open now. So I'm going to use my pencil tool, select my O1 layer, and the reason I wanted to leave this on the fill mode is because, well, actually, you know what? I need to connect all these first. So select all of these and Alt-J. Alt-J will connect those existing lines. Now I'll use my pencil tool in the O1 layer and come down here and get my crosshairs, start my line and draw it up here until I get the other crosshairs, and I know I'm right. I'm exactly where I need to be when it auto-fills. That'll be a closed shape. So left click, right click to stop. Now, let's look at these down here and see if these are connected, and they are not. So I'm going to select both of those, Alt-J, that join those. Now I'll use my pencil tool to come up here and get my crosshairs and go over till it closes. And there we go. Oop, there we go. Left click, right click, and that's connected. Now I'm going to put both of these on my O2 layer. Now I need to connect these. Select them both, Alt-J. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to leave these. As you can see, you can pick that line and this line. So I'm going to leave those. They're not connected. And with those not connected, if I come up here and get my pencil tool and take my O1 and get my crosshairs so I know I'm there, and come up here to that intersection and then come over here to get crosshairs, there we go. Well, it did not fill. I know I got crosshairs, but it didn't fill because this was open down here. So if I select these two and tell it to Alt-J, because I connected it here and over here, all I had to do was connect that point that wasn't connected, and now it's in fill mode. So now, or it's a solid shape. So I can put that back on there, and so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 solid shapes that are my logs. Well, they still don't look like logs, do they? Well, we're going to do that. We're going to create the perception of depth and roundness. And how do we do that? Well, we create the perception of roundness with the ellipse tool. So I'm going to select my ellipse tool, and I'm going to come over here to this line right here, and I'm going to look for the middle, and I should get a little solid circle in the middle of my crosshair there whenever I'm in the middle, and it's not doing it. So I'm going to go back, and in fact right now within the selector tool, if I come over here and scroll down, there, right there was what I was looking for when I was in the ellipse mode, but it didn't want to give it to me. And I'll come back here and show you again. I get right in there, and nowhere does it give me that solid circle. So I can force it to do that. And what that's doing, when you get that solid circle right there, that's telling you you are in the very middle of that segment. So when it doesn't want to show it to you, you can just select that, go into your node editing tool, and anywhere on that line, you just hit the letter M for middle, and it will put a node in the middle of that segment. Now you can go back and get your ellipse tool, come down here and look for that, and bow, Bob's your uncle, there it is. Now holding my control button, not my shift button, but my control button, it will draw out an ellipse from there equally in both directions. And I'm going to go right about there, and I'm keeping it elliptical. I don't want it round. And now I'm going to select that and hit Control D for duplicate. Hold my shift button and select the log and weld the duplication and that together. Now if I didn't duplicate it, that would not be here right now. That would have gone away when it welded together. But I need this here so that I can create the end of my log. So that's why I had to duplicate it. But now I'm going to say Control D, duplicate that again, and I'm going to bring it up here and put it right there where I've got my circle and my crosshairs. That tells me I'm in the center of that line. And now I don't need to duplicate it, just hold my shift button and select my log and weld that together. And now that's starting to look like a cylinder. Need to do the same thing down here and here and here. But on this one, I don't want it to go from the center right there. I want to be a little off center so that it looks like this log is overlapping that log. So I'm going to right there center. Let's see if it'll show me in the ellipse tool. No. All right. So if I want to make sure I'm higher than center, select this one, and I'm going to hit the letter M for middle, and then I'm going to do M again, and then one more time. And now that I've got that higher than center, I will select the one that was in the middle, delete that, and select that one, and hit the letter D for delete, for deleting the node. Now I'll come back to my ellipse tool, find that right there, hold my control button, and draw it out like so. I need to duplicate that because I need to keep one of them after I weld it. So I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate, hold my shift key and select that bottom log. Oh, got to go to my selector tool. Hold my shift key, select the bottom log, and weld that together. Now, it's not in the right shape that I want because it is now up here on top of that log. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one. That's my duplicate. I'm going to put it on a toolpath and turn my toolpath off so I don't see it. And now I'm going to select this one, go back into node editing, zoom in here. I'm going to put a node where they intersect by hitting the letter I for insert. And there's already one there. So now I can, in fact, I don't even need that one. just select all of these and hit the letter D for delete. And that just cleaned that up. Turn my toolpath back on. Put that back on the red path for right now. Gotta select it. There we go. Selector tool, select that one, put it on the red path. Right click, convert to path, because I need to edit the nodes on that, and you can't edit the nodes on an ellipse. It has to be a path. I'm gonna hit the letter I for insert and the letter I for insert, and select that one and the letter D for delete. And now with no nodes in between here and here, that is still a curve. So hovering over that curve, hit the letter L for line, L. And that just makes it a straight line from node to node. And that made that look like that log is sitting on top of that log. And since this end is hidden, we don't need to worry about making that other end elliptical. Now we need to do it to this log up here on both ends. And since I know I won't see my node, I'm going to select that and hit the letter M. And I'm going to select this one and hit the letter M. All right, done. Now I get my ellipse tool. Find that middle point, hold my control button, draw out however thick I want it to be. And to make sure that it matches end to end, say Control D, duplicate it, and just snap it to that middle right there. Now, this one I need to duplicate. So Control D, duplicate. Now that duplicate is selected, hold my shift and select the log and weld it together. This one I don't need to duplicate. Select it, select the log, and weld it together. And there we have a stack of logs. At least we're starting to. But now I want to create my lines. Now I've got this on a bunch of different layers, and that's because some of them are cut layers, some of them are lines, and some of them are fills. So I don't want this to cut out. Obviously, I want it to stay there, so I'll put it on one of the fill modes. And now I'm going to do an offset of that, and I'm going to do an inward offset, and we'll say 0.2. And make sure you don't have your delete original on. Turn that, make sure it's off, and say OK. Do another offset, and let's do 0.1. Do another offset, and we'll just say OK there. Another offset, and 0.15. Another offset, 0.1. We're just kind of staggering these so the rings of the tree look a little different. You don't have to do this. You don't have to change it up. You can just do the same offset all the way in. And say OK, and that'll work. Might do one more. Offset 0.1. Yeah, there we go. And say OK. Now we do the same thing down here. Now this one was a little bit different because, and we'll show you it up here. Actually, this is going to be the same process as that, and I'm not going to do it again. But this one, because we've got this log laying on top of it, it's cutting those rings off and making that should be a straight line across there regardless. So when I did this one, put it on a cut or the fill layer, do an offset, and say OK. Do my node editing and grab this node and drag it straight up to the line, keeping my distance here somewhat symmetrical. Now do an offset. I'm still in node editing, so I can just draw it straight up, grab that node and just take it up to where, there we go. Offset, still in node editing, so I can just drag them up. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. And actually that will probably be the, you know what, I'm going to undo, because I think that's as far as it needed to go. Now I'll just do my offset. And actually now it needs to be rounded, so I can say okay, go back to this one and hit the letter. I'm going to come right here on that line and or this corner right here and say S for smooth. Ooh, I don't like how that one jumped way out there, so I'm going to drag that back. And S for smooth on that one and drag that back. Drag that down. And we'll drag that up about like that. And now do another offset of that one. And one more. Now, got my growth rings there and there. I'll repeat that over here. And I've got my logs. Starting to. Now, those were on a different layer, so I'm going to grab my pencil tool, go to layer 5, and I'm just going to put some arbitrary lines in here. Start here, there. I want to keep these lines parallel to the edges of the log, and I'm going to vary the lengths of them and the positions of them. Hold your control button if you're needing to, if it's not wanting to go, if it's wanting to snap where you don't want it to, hold your control button and that will allow you to make a precise placement of your line. Oh, sorry. And so on and so forth. Alright, now what I'm missing? Okay, now these places across the bottom, what was that, bottom 10% or 15% of the log, that is going to do a very, very light engraving, or I've got it in a fill mode and I've got it, yeah, it was going to be a very, very light engraving so that it creates the illusion of a shadow on the bottom of the log, even though it's in the fire. Fire's up here. Create, you know, so all the bright lights up here, so you'd have a little shadow on the bottom of the log. And I got a FedEx delivery. I gotta go get that. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That was my Roly MK2XW that just showed up. So, all right, now I don't like how long these logs are. Now that I look at this and this side by side. But if I just grab all, I got a selector tool first, so undo that, grab my selector tool, grab all of that, and let's see what happens. We start shrinking it up here, and let's make it a little taller, a little wider, make the logs a little bit bigger, thicker I should say. And now with that done, I need to rotate it or skew it a little bit. And that looks a little bit more like what I had, but that's how I created my logs. Now I need to create the flame. Now, and actually, I had my flame right in the center of the logs. That was centered up. So I didn't center this junction up here when I did that design. So it's going to be a little bit off center, but it ain't going to matter much. We're going to still see the technique. And to do that, I simply went to my ellipse tool again, and I did not use my shift button. I used my control button to draw it out to about the height that I wanted. I got a little overlap down there, that's okay. Selector tool, right click, convert to path, go to node editing, come down here where my flame overlaps my log, and I'm going to hit letter I for insert. Again here, I for insert. I'll come to this one and I'm going to hit the letter L. And over here are both sides of it. And now that I've got that straight line, I can just snap it to that corner. And now the flame is sitting right there on top of those logs. But it don't look much like a flame. But I'm in node editing. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit the letter I for insert. And I'm going to draw that down. And I'll slide that one up. Bring that around. There we go. And make that shorter. And bring that in here. Alright, I'm not getting the point that I want here, and that's because this is still a curve. It's still a curve. It's in the smooth. So hovering over that, I'm going to hit the letter C for corner. Because right now what happens when I start moving these tangents, if I move this one, the other one moves with it. And I don't want that. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit the letter C for corner. Now that's going to allow me to move these independent from each other. And give it a point. There we go. And I'll leave that smooth for right now. Come over here. Let's give this one a letter C for corner. We'll bring it over. Bring this down. Bring it on over some more. Bring that in. We'll come over here actually and do a letter I for insert and do C for corner and grab this one and bring it down like so. And there is a flame. I spent a little more time on this one and got a little more purdy. But then there's my a flame. That'll work. Now if I wanted to create those smaller pieces like I had up here to make the flame layered so I can do different colors for each layer for the flame, I've simply selected that flame and I will do an inward offset of 1 millimeter and say OK. Offset again 1 millimeter and say OK. So there's 3 different layers. I could paint those up different colors, excuse me, and get a different result or a good look for the flame. But those are optional. You could opt not to do that or that and just paint that up real pretty so it looks like it's a flame instead of monotone. But there's how I created my campfire. Oh, I don't need that. Go away. Now the chairs were done using simple rectangles and the skew or the shear. So if I drew a rectangle, and we did a shear. Actually, I need to shear it both ways. So let's do undo. I'm going to rotate it first, kind of get it. And now if I undo that, insert a node there, and I'm going to bring this one down to about there. We'll get it straight up and down. There we go. And this one needs to come down to about there. And then I took and mirrored that. Let's see. Control D, duplicate it. Not that way. Flip it. No. Rotated it. There we go. That's what I. No. Yeah. Now, once I get that there, and now rotate or flip that. No, not that way. That way. You know, sometimes it's easier to remember how I did things, and sometimes it's not. Maybe I just sheared it. No. We'll bring that up here. And we'll bring that down. Is it this one? Maybe I just did it all with node editing. And actually that line's got to go, so select both of those and weld them together. There we go. And line. I don't like that one, so we'll get rid of that one and do it again. And I'm rushing through this because I want to get through this video quick. But once I got all those lines drawn, I select them all, and then I didn't get all of them. Hold my shift key, grab that one, and then do a small outward offset to give those a little bit more definition. Delete the originals. That's important. You delete those original lines and say okay. That'll give you that. And then you just had to put the legs on there. And the legs were another two rectangles, I should say. Convert to a path, go to node editing. Do an offset, outward. Round, do not delete the original, okay. Duplicate it, move it to the rear. I may have just drawn two of them. I can't remember now. There and there. Let's weld that together. Control B for Boolean tools. Weld the union. Okay. And this one. We're just going to go into node editing and move everything where we want it to be. Grab these and bring them in here. Grab these and bring it to here. Grab these and push them back. In fact, we can bring these out a little bit. Group them and weld them. So again, I hurried through that, but that's, you know, a rough way, a rough example of how I created the lawn chair. So I've got my two lawn chairs. I got my campfire. Now, the camper. Camper. All right. Let's draw out the camper. Control D, I want to duplicate that, and I'm going to send it to the center of the page, and then we're actually going to move it just a little bit up. Alright, boy, there's a lot of detail there, but how do we get there? Well, let's start with a rectangle. Convert it to a shape or a path, because it is a shape. Now we need to convert it to a path. And we're going to start moving these out. We're going to go to node editing, go to letter here, or hit the letter M for middle and the letter M for middle. And now hit the letter S for smooth. Could have done it MS. There we go. Now I've got those smooth, and we'll grab or select that one and use my arrow tool to arrow it out. Ain't moving fast enough, so let's go wherever I got my settings. Oh, 1/10 of a millimeter, no wonder. We'll do a millimeter. I don't like how those are straight up, so I'm going to grab these and round that out by bringing those nodes just past it. Okay, now I'm going to just warp this, or not warp, but instead, I don't need to put a node in here. I'm just going to use my cursor to come to about there and just start making that bulbous shape. And that needs to come up about there. And let's actually round that off a little bit. We're going to hit the letter S for smooth. And now we're going to need to bring that down. And bring that in just a little bit. That's good. We're going to smooth this one out too. S. And no, we're not. We're going to undo that. We'll leave that like that. All right, so there's the beginnings of a camper. Now let's do my frame and my tongue. And I'm going to start here where I get my crosshairs, hold my shift button and draw this out. And I'm going to go out further than I need to because I'm going to need to back this up. Now select that and just arrow it back over. And I want my bumper here to be about where the back of the camper would be. About like that. And the tongue, that's pretty good actually. Now with that selected, I'll do an offset. And let's do 2 millimeters. And delete the original, say OK. Select it and weld it. Alright. And now let's do our tongue. Or jack, I should say. That's the trailer jack. That's the there, and we'll put it like that. And now let's give it some, make it pretty. So we'll say let's do 4 millimeters wide. So if that's 4 millimeters, and we want this to kind of actually look like this is supposed to be a circle or a wheel down here. So instead of putting a circle down there, since it's 4 millimeters wide, I'm going to go to my radius tool and go half my width, so 2 millimeters, and do there, and that rounds that over. And I will do a 1 millimeter radius up here. And I'm going to leave the back one squared off and weld it together. So there is my beginnings of a camper. Now I need to do an offset of this entire thing. Actually, before I do that, I'll put my tire on it. So I'm going to draw a circle by holding the shift key to make it a perfect circle. And I'm going to come down, I'm not going to do it right there on the line. I'm going to come down just a little below it and hold my shift and control button and draw me out about a, what looks like it'd be about a 14-inch tire, 15-inch tire. Now do an offset outward 2 millimeters, say okay. Didn't want to delete the original though, so offset, undo that, offset, don't delete the original, okay. Go back to the original, do an offset inward, there we go, that looks good. Now take this, that's my camper, hold my shift button and select that one and subtract it using the Boolean tool over here. And that put my wheel and tire in there. Now let's do an offset of that and inward and 0.2. Nope, let's make it a 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 and say okay. And there's that, but now I don't want it on the fill mode yet. So let's put that back in align mode. There we go. Now I need to get some windows, the rear window and 2 side windows. So let's go back to our rectangle tool and we're actually going to make these side windows square. So holding the shift key and hold my shift key, we'll make, or I should say the control key, make it a little bit bigger because we're going to put radiuses on there and that's going to make them look smaller. So in fact, let's make this 18, and if that's 18, half is 9, half again is 4.5, so let's do a radius of 4. And that looks pretty good. Duplicate it, Control D, use my arrow keys to move it over where I want it, just what looks good to me. Alright, now Control D, duplicate it again and bring it all the way to the rear. And I'm going to make the rear window just a little bit skinnier, or not, so I'm going to reduce the height, holding my control button, and now to draw it up from the middle, about like that. So now I'll go to my innermost offset, select it, and then select this one and subtract it. So now when I put that in fill mode, it's going to fill that back window. Both of these in the fill mode. Alright, now I need the entry door. So let's put all of that back on align mode. It's easier to design in line mode. Draw a rectangle. Size appropriate. Then we're going to draw another rectangle. Let's get your rectangle tool. make sure she's centered, and she is. Let's move it up a little bit. And right now, let's make it, say 10 millimeters wide. And I didn't have my anchor point in the center, so it moved it off center. So put that anchor point in the middle and tell it to reduce its width to 10. That draws it in perfect. So now I know I'm 10 millimeters. Half of that would be 5, but I don't want to go a full rounded. So we'll do 4 again. So that's 4. Go to radius tool. There and there. That's good. And we actually will come down here to this one, and let's do a 1 millimeter and round that and that. That looks good. Now our handle on the camper, it's not a knob. You don't have doorknobs on camper doors. So the camper door handle is going to be a rectangle and then another rectangle. Put it in the horizontal center. Now this one is a height of 1.1 millimeters, and we want to have this one, we'll just say, let's make it 1 millimeter. This one we do want to have exactly half, so 0.5 radius. Go there and there. Wait a minute. Oh, that wasn't the height. That wasn't the width. That was the height, or vice versa. I did it wrong. But you know what? I think I like that. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. And I'm going to give this one just a littlest amount of. So the width or the height is 2, 3. We're going to do 0.2. All right, and round off the top of the door. So the door width is 22. Let's make it even, 22. So half of that is 11, but let's go 10. Radius at 10. That looks good. I think all that's good. Now we need to draw, and if you're not familiar with campers, this right here is the awning that you roll out to create some shade. Right now it's all rolled up and tucked away. So let's draw this awning. We're going to draw a straight line. Select it. We're going to come up a little bit. Actually, what I want to do is bring the door down a little bit. There we go. Now with that, and I'm going to draw 2 straight lines down the side. And I did not need to have that go above it. Duplicate it and bring it over. And if I want to make sure I'm really symmetrical, what I'll do is draw me a rectangle. I'll come right here to this corner, or square I should say, hold my shift button and come to that end of the line. So that square right there is how far that line is from the end of the other line. So I'll bring that over here. snap it in place, and then snap this line there. Now I know they're spaced exactly the same on either end. So select that one, hold my shift key, select that, do an offset outward, and we're going to do a round offset. We're going to do, and actually I don't want to do that. I want to have them varied. So an offset of that one round outward. That looks good. Delete the original. Then select this and this. Do an offset, but I'm going to do corners on this one. And I'm going to do about half that other. Actually, you know what, we'll do one. And delete the original. Now, why is it important to delete the original? Because these are going to be engraved, and I'm going to put this on an engrave path. Let me show you what happens when you don't get rid of your originals. We're going to leave those there and say OK. And I've got those selected. I'll select this and weld that together. The original lines are still there. And I'm going to select all of this and put it in a fill mode. That's going to be an engraving. So now I'm going to select this whole thing and go to preview, and you get this warning. Two shapes were set to fill but weren't closed. These have been removed as they may cause problems. Or you can say continue and it will remove those lines for you. But if you're like, wait a minute, what lines, what shapes, maybe that's not supposed to get rid of them, what's going on, I need to see something. And I noticed here I need to get an offset of my door because I need to invert that. So I want to see where those lines are. So you can say show me, and it's going to select those two lines. Now you can't see them, but you can now take and grab them, look, and say, oh, okay, I need to get rid of those. So just hit the delete button. But now I need to go back to my line mode. I'm going to select just the door and do an offset. And that should fix that door problem. Yep. Alright, now I want my graphics. I need my graphics on the side. So let's put it all back in line mode. To create my graphic, I simply drew a line. Duplicate it. Control D. Move it down. Draw a square. Select both of them and group them. Then put my square in the center, horizontal center. There we go. Now I'm going to use the shear. And I'm going to move it over. Control D, duplicate. Control D, duplicate. Control D, duplicate. I only did 3 up there, but the size of these 4 looks better. So these are good, but these lines, I need to do an offset. I'm going to do round. And delete the original. Now this and this, I need to get those evenly spaced all out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align this one to the left, align this one to the right, and then you can do this a couple different ways. We can select them all, deselect those lines, and then distribute them with horizontally with even spaces between them. That'll work. And now put all of it, didn't get it all, put all of it on a black layer, fill mode. And then we got a trailer. And now let's select all of it, group it, do an offset, outward, do not delete anything, outer shapes only. And let's do a 2mm and select outer shapes only, select resulting objects, optimize, OK, and then put that on a cut path. And now you've got your camper ready to cut out, engrave, and that looks good. Ready to go. So that's how I do the camper. Now, if you're like me, you say over here in my art library, once I've created something and I'm really, really happy with it, like I spent a lot of time getting that lawn chair the way I wanted it to create the illusions of it being reclined and all the symmetry the way I wanted, the camper the same way. I got all that set up. Well, once I did, and I got the result that I wanted, then you can select that entire thing, create you an art library, and I call this one's my camping library, and I've got a lot of artwork that I've created for camping signs. But take this camper and import graphic from project into your camping library. Say import graphic and name it whatever you want it to be. And I'm going to call this one ASDF because I'm going to get rid of it. And say OK, ASDF. And that's going to bring that over here and save it into your camping library. So next time you need that camper, you don't have to draw all that up again. If you're going to create a camping sign, go over and just, here's ASDF. I'm just going to double click it and it's going to bring it right into my artwork. Now, art libraries will save images, but it will not save your settings. So if you want to save your settings for a particular piece of art, then you're going to need to save that as a file and not as a piece of art library. When you save it as a file, it will save your settings for each individual layer, but it doesn't save any settings for power and speed when you save an image to your art library. Alright, so I can get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of this. Yes, delete it from my library. Alright. I don't need this. Okay. To create this piece up here, my material is 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters, and I want to get it as large as I can. So I did a 295 millimeter circle. So hold my shift button and draw out, and shift and control, I can draw it out to the center. Hold my selector, so get my selector tool and just tell it lock your aspect ratio 295 millimeters. That's as big as I can cut it out of my 12 by 12 material. Now I need to get me some ears to put some ropes on there so I can hang it. So I'm going to do another circle, shift button, and we'll do this one I think about 14 millimeters. That's going to be the hole to put the rope through. So 14 millimeters is just over ½ of an inch. So now I'm going to do an offset, and we're going to make it 7 millimeters offset. Do not delete the original. Say OK. Grab both of those, and I'm going to bring it down until it's right there on the center position there. Control D, duplicate it, move it over. I've got my outer circle bisecting my center square. That's really close to being centered up and where I want it to be. So I'm going to group these temporarily, group these, group the pair, and then select the circle after holding the shift and tell it to go to center. And now I know they're exactly where I want them to be. So now I can ungroup all of this, grab the outer circles, group those, hold my shift key, grab that circle, and weld it together. And now I've got a good strong hold to tie some rope on there to make this hang from some rope, and that's going to look good. So there's that piece. I need that piece again down here, but I started with a 295 millimeter circle. If I come down here, find my, there we go, hold my shift button and draw out a circle, and say make it I want to make the outer perimeter 15 millimeters wide, so 295 less 30, so 265 millimeter. There we go. So if I grab that and that, Control D, duplicate it, move that over to the side. There's the back in place, and then here is the beginnings of my front piece. And I need to deselect that and group that. Somebody's had an accident. All right. Now to create my mountains. To get all those peaks, start with a rectangle. Right click, selector tool, right click, convert to a path, go to node editing, letter M for middle. That gives me my middle point for my middle peak. But to make sure I'm in the middle, let's put it in the absolute center, and it is. So now I'll go back to node editing, and I will select that node, right or left click, and now I can just begin to arrow that up however high I want it to be. That's going to be my center point, my main peak. Now I'm going to come over here and just arbitrarily put in a node by hitting the letter I. Select that one and bring it down. Insert a letter I, or use a node to insert. Use I to insert a node. There we go. And this one I can just bring over here like so. Letter I for insert, letter I for insert, and bring that one over here. All right, starting to look like some mountain peaks, but now I need to really kind of give it some definition, rough the edges up, and give it some curvature, because nature doesn't happen in straight lines unless it's quartz. All right, I'm going to drag that down a little bit, drag that down a little bit, start and hit the letter S right here. Smooth that out, bring it down, and actually make that one an S. And now hit the letter C for corner and bring that one down. insert. S for smooth that out a little bit. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing this, but you just play with the nodes and get to the peaks to the shape that you want. Then once you got the peaks to the shape that you want, go back to your selector tool and do an offset of that. Enter, and however big you want your snow peaks to be. I'm gonna go 10 and say okay. Now, to create the illusion of the mountains being in front of one another, I'm going to go into node editing, and if I want this large peak to appear like it's further in the background than this peak, then I need to bring this, come on. Why is it not letting me do it? We'll grab this one then. Bring that peak down here like that. And then, don't know why she's not letting me do what I want to do here. Nodes. Normally I can just grab, there we go, like that. Kind of just start twisting your nodes around, and there is no right or wrong reason, because you're wanting this to look like snow drifts. But by elongating this one, it makes it look, and then bring that down to about where that would be in line here. So that snow peak is continuing on down in front of this one. And then if we want to put this one behind this one, we're going to do the same thing over here. Grab this one and bring it down. And you just keep playing with these and creating the pillowy look to give you your snow drifts. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to make this pretty, just showing you how you accomplish it. And if you want to make it, the more jagged you make it, the more sharp points you put on it, then that creates more of the illusion of it being steeper. The more pointed the mountains are, the steeper they are, or the less erosion you have on the mountains. They're newer mountains as far as time goes, because the older they are, the more rounded the peaks are. Like the Appalachians, they're really rounded mountaintops versus the Rockies. So sharp edges would give it more of a rocky look than the rounded edges. But once you do that and play with it, and you create all the curves you want to create and get all the drifts you want to create, then now you've started to have some snow peaks. And here I went in and drew really, elongated pieces, but this gives the illusion that that mountain peak is in front of that mountain, but this one gives the illusion of this mountain being in front of this mountain. And here comes out, it's in front of that mountain. And then went in and I did the same thing with creating some trees. Bring it to a sharp point, and you can actually create some triangles and weld those into place, and then start stretching the out limbs of the triangles to create the same thing. And just to show you real quick, we'll draw out a rectangle, go into shape properties and tell it we want oh, you know, I can't do a rectangle. I forgot that, dummy. Delete that. An octagon or a pentagon. Shape properties, 3 sides. Invert that. Right click, convert to path, go to nodes, and now come up here and start hitting the letter I. All up through there. Don't want to do that. And then just start dragging those out. And the more you put in there and the tighter you get it, and just keep on, keep on, keep on, keep on. And then you can weld that to that. Oh, not weld, subtract it. So A, subtract, or hold that and then hold shift and subtract. And that puts your tree in there. And you just do that all across the bottom, then you can get you a forest going down there. But now we want to A, subtract B, and then ungroup those and select that one and delete that one. And if you did a whole bunch of those trees all the way across there, then you'd have, you know, something like that going on. But that's how I created that. And for your text, not caping. I'm not Batman. Vertical center. Then select that and you get this blue dot up here. And I don't know why that's like that. Oh, dummy, that was the font size. Go back, undo. There we go. Horizontal spacing, vertical. Okay, that works. All right, but you look for that blue dot. Depending on what font you use, it may be up there or it may be right here. But once you find that little blue dot, that's where you begin to wrap it. And you're going to wrap it, and that follow that circle right there my mouse is on. And you're going to look to try and keep your spacing about the same. If you go too far with it, then your G is so far away compared to your P, it don't look right. Once you get the spacing about the same, now you can get the placement right. And that's a little bit high. We're going to curve it in some more. And that's starting to look pretty good. It's too big, so if I shrink it down, now I got to bring my curve back out. All right, now, how did I get that funky look to my engraving? So that's how you wrap your letters, your text. That's how I created all of that. So now let's get rid of all of that. And let's bring this, Control D, duplicate it, bring it to the center of the page, and let's generate a preview. Right there's a hint. Generating offset fields. All of that going on. That created, doing the offset fill, created all of those varying and crazy patterns. And I like that because that is more of a mountainous terrain look. More jagged peaks and bumps and outcrops instead of just a flat layer of engraving. But to really amplify that, I took it a step further. Now, I've never done this until this engraving, but I liked the outcome. And what I did was, if we go to my cuts and layers, and I turn off my green, because you can see the green right now. If I turn off the green, there's a blue layer right under it. They're both set to offset fill. But the difference is speed 1000, max power 30%. Speed 1000, max power 35%. But the biggest difference, my lines per inch. Here I've got a line interval of 0.5 millimeters between lines. Here I got a line interval of 1 millimeter between lines. So what that will do is give me every other line slightly darker than the other one, and that creates more texture, more depth looking, and more ruggedness to the terrain. Now the spacing is going to be exactly the same space apart on all of those. So they're equally spaced, but every other one is darker than the other one. And let's see here. Turn off my traversal moves. There we go. And I really liked that look that it produced by doing the offset fill, then creating the staggered line intervals and varying power settings. It gave it a different look completely. I really liked that outcome. So that, boys and girls, is how I drew that and created this wonderful piece of artwork. Now the painting, I painted the snow caps, I painted the sky, and do you see the variations in the paint, how it's darker and you've got the illusions of possibly some clouds going on, very wispy clouds that are there. And then if we look real close at the snow-capped mountains, you can actually see the mountainous terrain. It's not a real heavy snow cover. You can see the rocks, the mountaintop shining through the snow. And then the trees, I did the trees in 2 different colors, and that's supposed to be, and I've also got, if you look close, you can see some limbs in there. And that's to give the illusion of limbs, obviously, but also a light source. The sun's over here shining down, illuminating this side of the trees. And I've still got a campfire going. It's the middle of the day, but it's cold. So I'm in the Rockies. Maybe I'm at Yosemite there, and I needed a campfire going in the middle of the daytime. But in order to create that wispy look and that look, I made sure that when I cut out the backboard, I painted just that top surface blue, but I did it with a great distance away from the board. So that is actually just the wood grains that you're seeing starting to show through with the variation with the way that the paint adhered to the board. And having those grains running horizontal created that look. These grains, you can see, are running vertical. So all that thought was put into this whenever I even began to lay my wood on the laser. You can see the grains there running vertical. So a lot of thought went into this process. The painting I did with my paint pens that I got on Amazon. I've got a link to those in my shop supplies page. And that was these Nui Top. They're watercolor. They're water-based, so they're easy to clean up. But 24 different paint pens, and they are extra fine point. So making detailed work like those trees and the limbs and all that was really, really easy. And the way I made that snow was I allowed that watercolor to be thin in areas, so the wood kind of shone through, and it gave it that some extra depth appearances in places like that. I pre-painted the camper with a silver paint, kind of giving it kind of that Airstream look. It's not a true Airstream shape, but it's close enough to where I thought that would look good. But if you didn't like the camper and the lawn chairs, those are on the 3rd layer glued on top. If you bought this file from hobowithwood.com, you could opt not to use those. Change your saying to be whatever you want it to be. Create whatever artwork you want. But I've already got you the backboard and the mountain scene that you don't have to go and recreate. But this is one of a very, very popular sign for campers. I'd rather be camping. Something like this you would see hanging in the camper or at the house or hanging outside at the campsite. Another real popular one, which I'm going to develop. I've actually already got it developed. I just need to make it really friendly for the website and for the end users. Friendly for me, but I got to set it up really nice for you guys. This one is already on hobowithwood.com. I'm going to say new. No. But another real popular one is, yeah, I did see. Camping. They can't move home if they can't find it. Now this one is some clip art that I did get. I think I got that one from svgheart.com. But what I did is I took it a step further. This was before I got really, really good with LightBurn. Spam. Go away. Go away. Go away. Alright. What I did though is I went and turned it into a license plate. So you can cut this out in the shape of a license plate. You can put whatever dates you want to in here, dates and months. You know, if it's you know, a wedding anniversary, a month and a year, or whatever you want it to be. You can make those like the stickers on the license plates, month and year. But I'm going to put this license plate up on the website and a few others that I'm developing. So I'll have a few more camping signs. These were something that was requested by one of the viewers. Somebody said, hey, how about some camping signs and some layered camping stuff? So here we go. So this was a long video, but I showed you how to do this file start to finish without going and buying any clip art anywhere. And you can create your own like this, or you can jump over to hobowithwood.com and buy this file yourself and not have to do all of the legwork. Let's see here. Go to hobowithwood.com and switch. Here we go. So I've already got this up on the website. It's only $2.49 if you're not a patron. And I show you here, there is the two layers without the backboard, or without the camper. If you wanted to create your own using those two layers, you could take that text off and change it, or use that and make your own artwork. But hey, for $2.49 to get that already done and not do everything that I just showed you, that's a deal. Patron or not. But if you're a gold patron, gold members, gold patrons get everything for free. Silver patrons get it for 80% off, and bronze gets them for 60% off. I did have to throttle my gold patrons to only be able to download $40 worth of files every month, because I had jerks like John sign up, $20 sponsorship, download over $500 worth of files, then canceled their membership and stole all my files. So don't be a John. So I've throttled everything to $40 on the gold. You're able to download twice your monthly sponsorship. And if a new file drops before the new month starts and you're like, man, I don't want to wait the next month for that, but I really want that file, you email me and I'll send that file to you if you're a gold patron. So thank you for your support. I got to get in here, finish cleaning up this shop, because that FedEx delivery was the new XW. I got to get it up, cleaned up, set up, and ready to go, because this coming Saturday will be my 2-year anniversary, and we've got a big live stream scheduled. We're going to have lots of giveaways. I'm giving away a brand new Roly. I'm giving away subscriptions to LightBurn. I'm giving away renewals for LightBurn. I'm giving away Flask. In fact, I'll even give this away. I'll give this away. I'll give Flask away. Some t-shirts. There's going to be lots of giveaways. The fun starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time this coming Saturday, which will be June the 15th, 2024, depending on how long it's been, or since when you're watching this. It might be a year-old video, who knows. But June 15th, 2024, 2-year anniversary, big party, lots of fun, lots of live streams. We're going to do some flashbacks and do lots of giveaways, and just hang out and chit-chat, and I'll answer some questions as they come up, but mostly it's just going to hang out and have fun. So guys, thank you for hanging out with these long videos. I appreciate the support of all my patrons. Their support is what makes this channel happen. If you would consider becoming a patron, man, you get a heck of a deal. A gold patron membership, only $20 a month, and now I've got over $600 worth of files on my website. It is a deal, and I'm putting up new files weekly. And they are LightBurn friendly, because as you've seen, I design all of my stuff in LightBurn, and I test them. I build them. I don't just create stuff or have artificial intelligence create stuff and then throw it out there on the internet. I design them, create them, test them, so that when I put them on our website, I know they work. They are LightBurn friendly, they are laser friendly, and I put my files on my website in LightBurn format, SVG format, DXF, and AI. So even if you're not a LightBurn user, you can print out the SVGs. I've had some people tell me they do print them out and use them for scroll saw patterns. So thanks for hanging out. I've got to get back to work, get all this set up, and I'll see you Saturday, because I don't plan on doing another video between now and then. Thanks for hanging out, guys, and I'll see you this weekend.